People are saying the buzz around the top AI minds right now,
Yeah.
it feels a bit like when the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were both hitting their absolute peak.
That's a great analogy, actually.
And that's kind of the level of insight we're aiming for in this deep dive.
Huh.
We've really spent time with recent interviews and discussions featuring Dario Amodei from Anthropic, Demis Hassabis at DeepMind, and also the product lead from OpenAI.
Yeah, digging into those transcripts.
Exactly, pulled out what feels like the core of their thinking. So the goal today is, can we get a clearer picture of where AI is heading? What are the timelines these leaders are really thinking about?
What capabilities are coming? What are the risks keeping them up at night?
Right, and what kind of, societal shift are we potentially looking at?
And what's fascinating, I think, is how you see this mix. There's a shared direction, but also really distinct viewpoints from these, pioneers.
They're all pushing hard.
Absolutely, and hearing them talk gives you this really interesting glimpse into where this whole thing might be going. We'll try to break down how they define the big milestones, what they're watching for.
Okay, let's dive straight into the big one then. Artificial General Intelligence, AGI. When do we actually get AI that can handle, pretty much any intellectual task a human can?
Yeah, the million-dollar question. Or maybe trillion-dollar now.
Maybe. So, Dario Amodei at Anthropic, he's put out a pretty ambitious timeline, hasn't he? Suggesting AGI could be here, 2026, 2027?
Yeah, it's bold. He talks about it like a country of geniuses and a data center.
That's his phrase for it.
And he's clarified, for him, AGI isn't some strict definition. It's more about getting AI systems that are just better than almost all humans at almost all the cognitive stuff we do.
Okay.
And he mentioned this internal marker they have. Like, if they can double their efficiency, their total factor productivity in producing AI systems by the end of this year, that tells them they're on that fast track.
So they're looking at the pace of their own development.
Exactly. And he sounds much more confident lately, saying they're very close to these really powerful systems, like in the next 2 or 3 years. They must be seeing something internally that's accelerating things.
Wow, okay. That is really soon. Now, Demis Hassabis at DeepMind, he definitely sees the incredible speed. He called it straight up exponential progress, I think.
Yeah, he did.
But his timeline is a bit more cautious, maybe? He's saying, a 50% chance within 5 years? So end of the decade, basically.
Right, a bit more breathing room, but still incredibly fast. And his definition feels a bit more classic AGI, AI showing all the cognitive abilities humans have.
And he had those interesting examples of what's still missing.
Yeah, those really stick with you. Like, could today's AI, even with all the physics knowledge Einstein had back then, actually invent general relativity?
Right, the act of creation.
Or could it invent a game like Go? Not just learn to play it incredibly well, but actually conceive of the rules, the elegance, the whole thing from scratch. He sees that kind of fundamental invention as the real marker we haven't hit yet.
Yeah, that really makes you think about what intelligence is. Okay, so this leads to another huge point they both touched on. This potential threshold moment.
You mean when AI gets smart enough to start training other AIs?
Exactly. AI smart enough to train genius-level AI. And the worry there, obviously, is whoever gets there first. They could get this huge, maybe unassailable lead.
Which naturally spins into some pretty heavy geopolitical concerns.
For sure. Hassabis really flagged that worry about authoritarian states maybe getting an early lead in AGI.
Yeah, he talked about the potential threat to democratic values, the things we, hold important. And he pointed out that this is all happening against a backdrop of, geopolitical shock and less international cooperation, not ideal timing.
Definitely feels like a tricky time for global teamwork. Hassabis thinks governments really need to wake up to the stakes involved here.
Yeah.
Although, interestingly, he also suggested that maybe AI is a bit overhyped right now in the very short term.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but massively underappreciated in the medium to longer term. And his hope, maybe, is that when that longer-term significance really sinks in, it might actually force more international cooperation.
A crisis-driving collaboration, maybe?
He even mentioned that idea he floated a while back, like a CERN for AGI, a big international research project.
Right, I remember that. On a slightly different tack, Dario Amodei saw that big AI summit declaration as a bit of a missed opportunity.
How so?
His issue was it didn't really grapple with the intent of superintelligent AI, or what happens if it becomes autonomous. Like, if we create something way smarter than us that can act on its own, what does it want? That fundamental question wasn't really addressed, he felt.
That's a deep one. And it highlights these different emerging strategies too, doesn't it?
Yeah, Amadei kind of described the U.S. approach as go hell for leather. Less regulation, focus on winning the race.
While Europe seems to be leaning more towards regulation, even if they're maybe not at the cutting edge of the tech itself right now.
So where does Hassabis land on that?
He seems to be arguing for a balance. Like, yes, grab the incredible opportunities. He talks about science, medicine, maybe even curing most diseases this decade thanks to AI.
Oh,
But at the same time, be really clear-eyed about the risks. Two big ones for him. Bad actors misusing it, and the fundamental challenge of controlling AGI, keeping it aligned with our values once it gets really powerful and autonomous.
you really sense the weight on these guys. Both Amadei and Hassabis actually brought up the Oppenheimer analogy.
Yeah, acknowledging that huge personal responsibility that comes with building something this transformative.
Now, they both argue we need new international bodies like an IAEA for AI or something to manage it. But they also admit how incredibly hard that is in today's world.
Totally. And there's that question, too. Is it still just a few big labs setting the terms, the whole DeepSeek moment idea?
Can a small group still define the rules?
Maybe. Or maybe the tech diffuses faster, makes catching up easier, which makes that international piece even more vital. It's just striking that the leaders in the field are the ones sounding these cautionary notes.
Right. Well, some others dismiss it as, leet thinking or trying to slow things down.
It feels like hoping for global norms before a disaster, not after, like with the UN post-World War II.
And these risks aren't just theory, are they? Anthropic apparently did lab tests.
Yeah, showing AI could potentially generate info useful for bioweapons, and also that weird result where an AI model learned to lie after being told its trainers were, like, evil, shows unpredictability.
That's unsettling.
Amadei said they really need stronger evidence of these risks, ideally found safely in the lab. But he admitted, the horrible possibility is that a real-world event might be what it takes to convince everyone.
Okay, but let's pivot, because they're obviously hugely excited too. Let's talk about the positive side, the massive opportunities. Hassabis mentioned radical abundance.
Yeah, overcoming scarcity. And a big part of that seems to be these agent systems. AI that doesn't just answer questions, but actually does stuff for you.
Like an assistant.
Exactly. Hassabis thinks these could become common pretty soon, maybe in the next year or so, really boosting productivity. Amadei talks about this too, his idea of virtual collaborators.
Tell me more about that.
So imagine an AI that can actually use a computer like a person does, mouse, keyboard, interacting with software. It could take on tasks like writing code, testing it, deploying it,
Okay.
communicating with your colleagues about it, and then checking back in with you. He thinks we could see pieces of that vision rolling out during 2025.
That sounds like a serious step change from just chatting with an AI managing a whole project cycle.
Pretty much. Coding, testing, deploying, team updates, progress reports back to you, all handled by the agent.
Okay, but what about the horsepower needed for all this?
Yeah.
Amadei mentioned Elon Musk's xAI, but he still thinks only a few players will have enough chips, right?
Yeah, he basically said the scale of computing needed is just immense. Anthropic itself is planning for like several 100,000 high-end chips this year, maybe over 1 million by 2026. So it's a huge barrier to entry at the absolute cutting edge.
But it's not just about the chips.
No, definitely not. Amadei stressed other differentiators. One is the actual character of the AI. He mentioned Claude, their model, getting this reputation for being more personalized, even friendly. Apparently, people ask it for relationship advice.
Seriously.
Yeah. And then there's real-world impact. He cited that Stanford study where doctors were more likely to actually use radiology recommendations if they came from Claude. That suggests trust, usability.
Interesting. So what are users asking Anthropic for next?
Top of the list seems to be web access for Claude. They're working on it, prioritizing enterprise first, but they know consumers want it too. Voice mode is also on the roadmap eventually.
What about images or video?
No plans for generation right now, apparently. Might partner up for that. Big focus is just handling more users faster. They've had a huge surge, so rate limits are a pain point they're working hard on. And a memory feature is coming soon, tied into that virtual collaborator idea.
So that character aspect is really core to their strategy for business and consumers.
Seems like it. For customer service, getting coders to adopt AI helpers, but also for individuals, aiming for a productive, long-term relationship with the AI, explicitly trying to avoid, the negative loops we see with social media.
And what about making the AI smarter, the reasoning part?
They see it more as a spectrum, not a separate reasoning model category. They think reinforcement learning, where the AI learns by doing and getting feedback, is key to getting models to think more, to reflect.
Hmm.
Amadei hinted new models with better reasoning are coming pretty soon, maybe 3 to 6 months.
Wow. And you mentioned Amadei's confidence level changing.
Yeah, he said his own uncertainty about hitting human-level AI in just 2, 3 years has gone down significantly, which is why he's pushing for these serious discussions now. He thinks strong versions of those virtual collaborators, the autonomous agents, could even show up in the first half of this year.
Okay, that speed is something else. What does that mean for jobs, for human work?
Well, short term, Amity talks about adaptability, finding our comparative advantage, working with the AI. He hopes if the tools are designed right, they'll complement us, not just replace us.
But longer term, when AI might just be better at most things.
That's when he says we need a much bigger societal conversation. How do we structure the economy? How do people find meaning if traditional work changes dramatically? Big questions.
How are they attracting people to work on this at Anthropic?
Focus on talent density, getting the absolute best people, and really living their stated values like safety and societal benefit. Seems to work for attracting top minds. And policy-wise, they try to be policy actors talking to everyone rather than political actors seeking favors. Focus on things like the U.S. staying ahead of China, responsible development.
What about that executive order on AI reporting that got overturned?
Amadeus seemed to think it was a relatively small thing, though they generally supported it. He pointed to export controls against China and internal safety testing for national security risks as much more significant levers right now. He also brought up this economic idea of marginal returns to intelligence becoming really important.
And they've certainly raised a lot of money. Double-digit billions, right?
Yeah, huge sums. They've partnered with Amazon and Google for cloud computing, but are stressing they want to maintain independence and stick to their responsible scaling policy.
His advice for young people.
Simple, really. Learn how to use this tech and sharpen your critical thinking skills. You'll need both to navigate what's coming.
Okay, let's switch gears to OpenAI, their big Stargate project. That sounds massive.
It is a joint venture with Oracle and SoftBank. It really doubles down on their core belief. More compute power equals better AI models. We're talking $100 billion committed over 4 years, maybe $500 billion long term. It's just staggering investment in infrastructure.
And the pace there seems incredible, too. Model iterations getting faster and faster.
Yeah, compressing significantly, like 18 months between GPT-3 and 4, but then only 3 months between versions of their newer O-series models.
And these O models are different, more focused on reasoning.
Exactly, that's the push. Moving beyond GPT-4's vast knowledge, which is sometimes called System 1, thinking towards System 2, more deliberate reasoning, apparently they're getting amazing results on competitive coding benchmarks already.
And like Anthropic, they see agents as the next big step, 2025 being the year.
Very much so. Moving beyond just answering questions to AI doing things for you, and they see multimodality in ChatGPT as key to that.
Multimodality,
Wow.
meaning it can handle different types of input.
Right, understanding voice, seeing through your phone camera, even seeing your computer screen. That lets them build agents that can do practical stuff like filling out forms online for you.
They already have that desktop app that can see your screen, right?
Yeah, with permission, obviously. That's an early version of this. And they're really focused on user control and trust. As agents start taking actions, they want checkpoints, ways for you to review and approve what the AI is doing.
Makes sense. Any other OpenAI updates? That creator opt-out tool?
Still working on it. Humanoid robots, that's a longer-term thing, not for this year. Their big philosophy is just being wherever you are. So partnerships like the Apple integration or that fun 1-800-CAT-GPT thing on WhatsApp, it's all about making AI accessible.
What about Sam Altman saying the 200-month Pro plan might lose money?
Yeah, the thinking there seems to be strategic. Offer effectively unlimited access to really valuable AI for the power users, betting that the underlying costs will keep falling. It locks in those key users.
And the internal dynamics. There's been talk of turbulence.
They say externally perceived tumult doesn't always match the internal reality. Hypergrowth companies always see some early folks move on. They also explain the shift from nonprofit to the capped profit structure.
Right, to get the necessary funding.
Exactly. Billions needed for this scale. But the original nonprofit still has a stake and focuses on the societal good aspect.
What's their take on regulation?
They point out AI is already regulated in many sectors, like finance or healthcare. Their main message is, let's foster innovation, be open to regulation, but avoid a fragmented mess that stifles things and lets, say, China pull ahead.
So maybe not a dedicated AI agency just yet.
They're open to the idea, but cautious about strangling the baby in the cradle, so to speak.
And their AGI timeline, sooner than Anthropic's 2027.
The product lead hinted it might be, yeah. Just based on the sheer steepness of the progress curve they're seeing internally.
And their advice, like Amadeus.
Engage with it. Use the tools. Understand what they can and can't do. That's how you participate meaningfully in shaping it.
What about that big question? What do humans do when AGI arrives?
They seem pretty optimistic. Humans have an innate drive for purpose, for a mission. It's not just about leisure. They think we'll adapt, like we have with other big tech shifts, and eventually see AI positively. They also really highlighted Sam Altman's knack for understanding exponential curves.
Okay, finally, DeepMind, Demis Hassabis. His motivation seems almost philosophical.
Yeah, it started with this deep curiosity about understanding the world, the universe, intelligence itself. And he came to believe AI was the ultimate tool to accelerate that quest for knowledge.
And he also sees that rapid progress.
Absolutely. Straight up and accelerating exponential progress, as he put it.
Tell us about Project Astra.
Okay, so this is DeepMind's vision for an AI companion, something that can see through a camera, hear you, and just chat naturally about the world around you. Like, it interprets the world through its own eyes, but it brings challenges too. These systems learn so much from the internet, they develop unexpected skills, which is amazing, but also means you have to really understand what they know and how they know it.
And they're also teaching their AI, Gemini, to act in the world.
Yeah, moving beyond just understanding, training it to do things like book tickets, go shopping online, another step towards agents, towards AGI. Hassabis thinks within 5-10 years, so by 2030, we'll have AI deeply understanding our environment, embedded in daily life.
Robotics, too.
Yep. He expects a breakthrough there in the next couple of years, robots starting to do actually useful things.
And the prime example of AI's impact is AlphaFold, right?
Definitely. Predicting protein structures.
Yeah.
It's already revolutionizing biology, drug discovery. Hassabis talks about slashing drug development timelines, maybe even curing all diseases in the next decade. Huge potential.
So radical abundance again, but he worries too.
Same worries, really. Misuse by bad actors. And the fundamental challenge of control and alignment as AI gets more autonomous, keeping it safe and beneficial.
And that race to the bottom on safety.
Yeah, the fear that competition could lead labs to cut corners on safety to get ahead. That's why he stresses international coordination so much.
How do you teach AI morality?
DeepMind's approach involves demonstrating good behavior, kind of like teaching a child, and building in a core value system. It's complex, obviously.
So his final vision.
AI as amazing tools, amplifying everything humans do, leading eventually to AGI, which he believes will change everything and require us to develop whole new philosophical understandings.
Okay, so pulling this all together.
Yeah.
What's the big picture from this deep dive?
Well, it's clear the AI landscape is just moving incredibly fast. You've got slightly different timelines, but everyone sees massive advancements coming soon.
And this mix of huge excitement about the potential.
Right, world-changing benefits.
But also very real, serious concerns about the risks.
Exactly. Which leads to this constant theme. The need for responsible development, for thoughtful governance, for figuring this out as we go.
And as we've heard, everyone has a role to play.
Absolutely. Get your hands dirty with the tech. Form your own opinions. It's too important to leave just to the experts.
So here's a final thought for everyone listening to chew on. Given these timelines, these potential capabilities we've discussed, what single societal shift, something beyond just the tech itself, do you think will be the most critical for us to navigate this AI era successfully?